My husband's love for me is very strange. When his love reached 50%, he chose to take a concubine. He married my younger sister. And when his love reached 75%, he took the pair of children I had worked so hard to give birth to and gave them to my sister to raise. Until the 7th year of his dual household arrangement, the system told me that his love for me had finally reached 100%. I was filled with confusion. Since he repeatedly claimed to love me, why did every one of his actions only make me taste bitter pain? This kind of love is not what I wanted. So, when the system gave me the choice to either leave this world or stay, I chose to leave without a moment's hesitation. The system gave me one day to say goodbye to this world, and suggested I have one last meal with my children. However, my son rejected me. He said to me, Lady Jiang, if you keep coming to see me and my sister, our mother will be unhappy. He even told Gu Jinyan about this. Soon, Gu Jinyan came to see me. He had just returned from court, wearing his dark blue vice minister's robes, which accentuated his handsome yet cold demeanor. Jiang Yuning, you went to see the children again today? His voice was calm, but I could still hear his displeasure. In the past, when I missed the children, I would visit them secretly, but when caught by Gu Jinyan, he always had the same attitude. Every time, I would softly admit my mistake. But now that I am about to leave, I no longer want to just admit fault. For the first time, I stood up to him. I am the children's biological mother. Asking them to have a meal with me before I die is not too much to ask, is it? Nonsense. Gu Jinyan's face suddenly darkened. If you're sick, call a doctor. Don't curse yourself. I was telling the truth, but he didn't believe it. He even scolded me. In the future, see the children less, and do not bring those habits you learned while begging, those life and death attention-seeking tactics, and use them on the children. Today, you will copy the family rules once. Consider it a warning. After saying that, he left. I watched Gu Jinyan's hurrying back as he walked away, my eyes stinging. In his eyes, my mere presence was like a stain upon the children. Did Gu Jinyan, who looked down on me so much, really love me? But the system said, host, the system does not make mistakes. Gu Jinyan's love for you has indeed reached 100%. Perhaps the way you humans express affection is just very subtle and unique. I didn't know why Gu Jinyan had to be subtle, but as of today, the heart-fluttering feelings I had when I first met him had been slowly ground into dust. I didn't want to copy those scriptures for even another moment. A servant came to deliver a message, saying that my 2-year-old daughter wanted to eat my lotus pastries, and asked me to make them and send them to Mingyue Courtyard. Mingyue Courtyard was where Jiang Qingyan lived. I was about to die anyway, so I treated it as the last time I'd cook for my daughter. Half an hour later, the lotus pastries were ready. When I stepped out of the small kitchen, a cold wind blew in. I suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood, and my heart throbbed with pain. I asked the system, is this the omen of death you created? The system said, no. I have adjusted your body's parameters. This body will fall gravely ill, and eventually die from massive internal bleeding. You'll have to endure some pain. I wiped the blood from my mouth, panting as I leaned against the doorframe. It's fine. I have a high pain tolerance. I just need a moment. The person who took the wrong baby back then threw me away. I grew up as a beggar, fighting for every bite and being beaten since childhood. Later, the system helped me reclaim my identity. I married into the Jiang family, tasked with winning over Gu Jinyan. There were 900 family rules. Gu Jinyan took my attempts to please him as improper seduction. He would often punish me by making me kneel in the ancestral hall, kneeling all through the night. Pain had long since become a habit. Once I stopped coughing blood, I forced myself to carry the food box toward Mingyue Courtyard. When I arrived, I saw my son waiting at the gate. But before I could speak, my son snatched the food box away. 5-year-old Gu Xiaoyan was very wary of me. He ordered people to block me, and said rudely, Lady Shen, this is far enough. Don't even think about coming in to disturb our family's happy reunion. In an instant, it felt as if cold water had been poured over me, and Gu Xiaoyan had already run off with the food box. Shouting excitedly toward the courtyard, Mother, I watched him enter and throw himself into Jiang Qingyan's arms. I watched the family of 4 inside, laughing warmly. The drafty wind whipped against my clothes. I was both cold and in pain. Suddenly, I felt incredibly lonely. This world has been too unkind to me. The system comforted me. In 16 hours, you will be able to leave this world. I endured the pain and returned to my own bedroom, reminding the system not to forget its promise. Once I die in this world, it must take me to a world where I can feel love. Before I could hear the system's reply, I collapsed unconscious on the bed. I don't know how much time had passed when the door was kicked open with a bang. Gu Jinyan stormed in and dragged me off the bed. He questioned me ruthlessly. Jiang Yuning, you actually poisoned the lotus pastries? Qingyan and our daughter are both unconscious after eating them. How can you be so malicious? Hand over the antidote right now. My arm was pulled so hard it hurt. I struggled to explain that I hadn't poisoned them, but Gu Jinyan wouldn't listen at all. He dragged me to Mingyue Courtyard without a word. As we stopped, before I could even steady myself, my son Gu Xiaoyan suddenly rushed out and slammed his head hard into my waist. He punched and kicked me, calling me a venomous woman. You harmed my sister and my mother. I hate you. You deserve to die. I was knocked down onto the icy, snowy ground. My waist felt like it was about to break, and my face was as pale as paper. Gu Jinyan finally stopped our son, but he didn't punish him. Until Qingyan and Zhao Zhao are out of danger, you will kneel here and reflect on your actions. Just as he finished speaking, the doctor walked out of the room and bowed to Gu Jinyan. Rest assured, Lord Gu. Lady Qingyan and Miss Zhao Zhao have not been poisoned. Miss Zhao Zhao simply has a cold, and the lady was merely exhausted, causing her to fall into a deep sleep. The expression on Gu Jinyan's face froze. When our son, Gu Xiaoyan, heard this, he didn't even look at me. He happily shouted mother, and rushed into the room to see Jiang Qingyan. Gu Jinyan regained his senses and came forward to help me up, his face showing a hint of remorse. I'm sorry, it seems we blamed you wrongly. But don't hold it against the young master. He was only worried and anxious, which is why he struck you. He doesn't really hate you. I twitched the corner of my mouth and said nothing. Regardless, I was leaving this world anyway. Whether they hated me or not no longer mattered. Enduring the dizziness in my head, I pulled my hand away from Gu Jinyan and turned around. A metallic taste of blood rose in my throat. I was getting weaker and weaker. I didn't have time to deal with Gu Jinyan anymore. I lifted my foot to leave, but Gu Jinyan grabbed my hand again, as if wanting to compensate me. He unusually invited me. There is a lantern festival tonight. Don't you like lively places? You can come with us. This time, I'll help you win a lantern as well. When I heard this, I gave a cold laugh and pulled my hand back forcefully. No thanks. I don't want to be publicly scolded again for stealing Jiang Qingyan's poems. Gu Jinyan's movements paused, and a rare look of embarrassment flashed across his refined face. When I first married into the Jiang family, in order to win Gu Jinyan's favor, I used every means to stay by his side. I learned poetry from him, and I studied hard. Gu Jinyan was the top scholar who placed first in all 3 imperial exams. He was very talented. Seeing that I was willing to learn diligently, he agreed to teach me. That period of time during the lessons was the only time in my life that could be called happy. Later, I luckily won a lantern at the festival. But Jiang Qingyan also took a liking to that lantern. Jiang Qingyan slandered me in public, insisting that the poem I wrote had been stolen from her. She exposed my baseness, making me a laughingstock for my lack of filial piety. But that poem was something I had created independently in front of Gu Jinyan. I asked him to testify for me, but he only said, 2 sisters fighting over a toy is too unsightly to watch. Don't be so petty. Just let Qingyan have it. That year, Jiang Qingyan was rumored to be a talented woman, while I became the beggar fraud who was the joke of the nation. From then on, I no longer liked lively crowds. It was just that my body was failing faster than I had imagined. With every few steps, the cold wind I inhaled made my vision go black. I couldn't control myself and collapsed. As my consciousness faded, I saw the always calm and steady Gu Jinyan unexpectedly pick me up in a panic, shouting my name. I started to believe what the system said. Gu Jinyan seemed to love me a little, but I still wanted to leave this world. The affection he gave me only brought me pain, but what I wanted was care, respect, and unconditional love. The kind that couldn't bear to see me hurt in the slightest. Just like how Gu Jinyan treated Jiang Qingyan. When I woke up again, I found myself back in bed. Gu Jinyan was unusually staying by my bedside. He was holding a bowl of steaming porridge, scolding me like a doctor. You intentionally didn't eat, which is why you're so weak from hunger. You've been learning the rules of the Jiang family for 7 years. How are you still so lacking in dignity? Drink the porridge, then go to the ancestral hall and kneel to copy the family rules. Copying the family rules again. I looked at Gu Jinyan's features with a sense of weariness. In the 7 years I've been married into the Jiang family, Gu Jinyan has often said I lacked dignity. He would sternly punish me by making me copy the rules. My knees had developed a thick, ugly layer of calluses from kneeling, and I could already recite the Jiang family rules backward. I refused with an expressionless face. I won't go. If you really find me so offensive, then just grant me a divorce. That way, whether I understand dignity or not, will have nothing to do with you or the Jiang family. Nonsense. Before I could finish, Gu Jinyan interrupted with a darkened face. Is the Jiang family a place where you can marry into whenever you want and leave whenever you please? I don't want to hear such words a second time. Someone come. Escort the madam to the ancestral hall. As the punisher, he looked even angrier than me, the one suffering. The system says he loves me, yet he shows no mercy when punishing me. I suspected that the panic I saw in him before I fainted was just my hallucination, but unexpectedly, this time I actually avoided copying the family rules. Not long after being dragged out of the courtyard by the Jiang family's maids, I met Nanny Jiang, sent by my parents. Nanny Jiang dragged me to the front yard and forced me to my knees, then slapped me hard. Miss Yuning, the minister has heard that you poisoned and harmed Miss Qingyan. You are incredibly malicious. I am ordered to carry out the family punishment of 30 lashes. Haha, I didn't even have time to defend myself. I was pinned down, my outer robe stripped away, and I was whipped until I was a bloody mess. I trembled with pain. Ever since Jiang Qingyan married into the Jiang family, whenever something happened to her, my parents would send someone to carry out family law on me. They even said it was for my own good, saying it was to make me learn the rules properly so I could gain the respect of everyone in the Jiang family. But in reality, while the Jiang family was indifferent to me at first, the servants didn't dare do anything to me as the mistress. But ever since I was publicly punished, even the servants looked down on me. Anyone in the entire manor could trample on me. After the 30 lashes, Nanny Jiang stopped. Miss Yuning, reflect on your actions carefully. I will help you. Take your most precious ruby headpiece and give it to Miss Qingyan as compensation. After they left, I lay on the snow for a long time, unable to get up. Not a single Jiang family servant watching came forward to help me. Instead, they ridiculed me loudly. A beggar is just a beggar. Jiang Yuning, even after marrying our brilliant Lord Gu, hasn't developed a good character, being punished by her own parents' family every day. There's no one more shameful in the whole of Wei country. It's so unsightly. Luckily the young master and miss were given to Lady Qingyan to be raised by Lord Gu. Otherwise the future of the manor would be ruined. The weather was freezing. My shoes soon froze over, and the pain in my back became numb. I had heard enough ridicule. I finally had the strength to put my clothes on, and enduring waves of dizziness, I staggered back to my room. While passing the garden, I heard a burst of laughter. It was Gu Jingyan and Jiang Qingyan, taking the children to release lanterns by the pond. Jiang Qingyan had a bright smile, clinging to Gu Jingyan's arm and acting spoiled. Jingyan, I hope our family will never be separated, year after year. Gu Jingyan responded with gentle eyes, you are so sincere. The heavens will surely make your wish come true. The two looked at each other and smiled, showing a warm understanding. I had also pestered Gu Jingyan to release lanterns with me, and made a wish. But at that time, he not only coldly smashed the lantern I made, but also scolded me, saying, if you have time for these boring things, you'd be better off copying the family rules a few more times and learning proper conduct. I didn't want to watch anymore, and turned to leave. But Gu Jingyan spotted me. He called out to me, come and release lanterns too. Qingyan's hands are delicate. She can't do this rough work. Help her assemble the lanterns. She wants to make a few more, to pray for the family's safety. Just as I was about to refuse, Jiang Qingyan affectionately came over to pull me. Jingyan, you take the children to the pavilion to release the lanterns. I'll be fine with Sister Yuning to accompany me. Gu Jingyan glanced at me, nodded, and left. As soon as he turned around with the children, my wrist felt a sharp sting. Jiang Qingyan was pinching my hand tightly, mocking me in a voice only the two of us could hear. Jiang Yuning, you are so pitiful. So what if you're the biological bloodline of the minister's manor? Our parents don't like you. Your husband doesn't like you. And even your children don't like you. A beggar in silk and satin. Your life is still ugly. If I were you, I would have died of shame long ago. I pulled my hand back in pain. In the next moment, Jiang Qingyan fell backward into the pond, crying out Jingyan, help. At the critical moment, Gu Jingyan rushed over and caught Jiang Qingyan, preventing her from falling. Before I could speak, I heard 5-year-old Gu Xiaoyan pointing at me and shouting loudly. I saw it. It was Jiang Yuning who pushed Mother into the water. She wanted to kill Mother. My heart went cold. In the next moment, Gu Jingyan turned his gaze to me, filled with immense disappointment. Jiang Yuning, Qingyan thinks of you every day, even persuading her parents to be kinder to you. Yet you show no gratitude. No wonder your parents don't want you. You truly don't deserve to be loved. The words were like sharp blades stabbing deeply into my heart. Gu Jingyan clearly knew that I had no one to care for me and no one to love me, yet he trampled on the place I cared about most. Jiang Qingyan's clumsy tricks of framing and entrapment. She had played them many times over the years. I used to explain myself. But today, I didn't want to explain anymore. I turned and went straight back to my room. In these last few hours of my life, I wanted to wait for death and peace. But not long after I entered the bedroom, Gu Jingyan chased after me. In a cold tone, he said, do you think by hiding here, you can escape the mistakes you've made? I looked up at Gu Jingyan, saying each word clearly. I didn't push Jiang Qingyan into the water. If you don't believe me, call the authorities. I refused to admit any wrongdoing. Gu Jingyan's eyes were dark, his anger flaring up. He strode forward and grabbed my arm. Even now, you still haven't reflected on your actions. Stop making excuses. You should go and apologize to Qingyan. My arm was yanked hard, pulling at the wound on my back. I couldn't help but let out a cold hiss of pain. Gu Jingyan paused for a moment, noticing the fresh blood seeping through the back of my dress. His expression changed. What's going on? Why didn't you say you were injured? Before I could answer, he frowned deeply and shouted for the servants. Go get the doctor. Have them come treat the madam's injuries. Just as he finished speaking, a maid ran in from outside, shouting loudly, Lord Gu. Lady Qingyan says she has a headache. Please go and see her quickly. When Gu Jingyan heard this, he immediately forgot about me and hurriedly turned to leave, leaving only one sentence, I'll send someone with medicine later. I didn't stop him, watching him leave in a hurry, but the medicine was never sent. From excessive blood loss, the pain became unbearable. I curled up under the covers in a daze, not even knowing when I passed out. When I regained consciousness again, I was woken up by crying and shouting at the door. Father, me and my sister don't want to go in to see Jiang Yuning. She maliciously plotted against our mother. Being whipped by grandfather's people was what she deserved. Jiang Qingyan's comforting voice also came, Jingyan, the children are still young. Since they don't want to enter the room, let it be. It wouldn't be good if they caught her sickness. Our parents used family law on sister because they were pained by her lack of progress. Back then, they arranged for her to marry the family's tutor. He swore he would make her happy. But sister took the marriage contract and forced you to marry her in front of everyone. She was greedy for the Jiang family's wealth. Now sister hasn't learned the rules. And even her children aren't close to her. I don't know if she regrets insisting on marrying you. Gu Jinyan listened. Silenced for a moment before saying, in that case, take the children back to Mingyue courtyard. I will convey your feelings to your sister. I hope this suffering will teach her a lesson. To respect you more in the future. This whole scene left my heart filled with a chilling cold. Back then, the tutor my parents chose for me was a madman. His previous wife had been beaten to death by him. My parents wanted to marry me to him, to keep me locked away, so I would never be in Jiang Qingyan's way. If the system hadn't helped me find the marriage contract between the Jiang and Gu families, and if I hadn't intentionally used it in public, holding the contract to force Gu Jinyan to marry me, I might have been beaten to death by now. As I was thinking, another wave of stabbing pain hit my brain, like countless wild dogs tearing at my bones. The pain made my head spin. I couldn't help asking the system, it hurts too much. How much longer until I can die? The system said, soon, only 6 hours left. At the same time, Gu Jinyan's cold questioning rang in my ear. What? How much longer until you die? I opened my eyes. I only realized then that Gu Jinyan had entered the room at some point. Jiang Qingyan had already left with the 2 children. Gu Jinyan was holding wound medicine, sitting by the bed with a grim expression. He stared at me and asked coldly, Jiang Yuning, how old are you now? Still constantly making these suicidal threats. Being so unstable. How can the children be close to you? And how can I feel safe letting you near them? He was looking down on me again. I tremblingly propped my body up, looking straight into the man's eyes. I told him very seriously, Gu Jinyan, I am truly going to die. In the future, I will no longer disturb the happiness of you, Jiang Qingyan, and your family of 4. You don't need to warn me over and over again. As I spoke, I pointed expressionlessly at the door. Since you don't want to see me, then don't come looking for me. It just so happens that I don't want to see you either. The door is over there. Please leave. Perhaps my gaze was too indifferent. Gu Jinyan actually showed a rare moment of error. It was as if he never expected that I, who had always revolved around him, would one day suddenly withdraw all my attempts to please him. He reached out and gripped my shoulder tightly, staring at me and demanding, what do you mean? I looked him in the eye and spoke plainly, word for word. I'm saying you don't need to remind me every time of how unworthy I am. Since both you and the children reject me, from now on, we will cut ties. Remember, it is I who no longer wants you, and no longer wants the 2 children. Gu Jinyan's hand suddenly tightened, an inexplicable sense of unease rising in his heart, staring at me. His voice was tense as he asked, where could you go without us? From the day you married me, you are a person of the Jiang family, in life or death. I smiled mockingly. Have you forgotten the family rules? Rule 88 of the Jiang family, if a daughter has no son, she cannot enter the Jiang ancestral grave after death. My 2 children have both been recorded under Jiang Qingyan's name by you. If I die today, I will not be buried in your Jiang family tomb. After I die, I will no longer be one of your Jiang family people. After hearing this, Gu Jinyan looked like he finally understood. After all this fuss, it turns out you want to raise a child yourself. His well-defined hand held my shoulder, pulling me into his embrace, and offered a rare, gentle consolation. Xiaoyan and Cao Cao were raised through Qingyan's hard work. They aren't close to you. It's impossible to give them to you. If you really want a child, I can have another one with you. This one, I'll let you raise. I felt a surge of coldness in my heart. Gu Jinyan, did he think having a child was a blessing for me? My son weighed 8 pounds. I had a difficult labor giving birth to him. Before I could even look at him after he was born, he was taken by Gu Jinyan and given to Jiang Qingyan. He said I wasn't as knowledgeable as Qingyan, and couldn't raise a child well. I cried and begged, but he only comforted me by saying we'd have more children. The night I conceived my younger daughter, Cao Cao, Gu Jinyan was drunk. He tossed and turned for a night, shouting Qingyan the whole time. After my daughter was born, she was taken away again. Whenever we were together after that, I secretly took contraceptives. I pulled my hand away, rejecting him coldly. If you want a child, you can have one with Jiang Qingyan. She takes fertility medicine every day. Maybe she could have conceived long ago. His hand felt empty after I moved. He probably didn't expect I would refuse him. He rubbed his brow tiredly. As for us, don't involve Qingyan. If you don't want a child, then what do you want? I stared at his face, speaking the long-suppressed thoughts in my heart word for word. I only want to leave this place as soon as possible. Copying those family rules for 7 years makes me want to vomit. I really hate it here. If I had a choice, I'd rather have never met you. The air was deathly silent as the words fell. Gu Jinyan held back his temper over and over, veins slightly bulging on his forehead. But this time, he didn't continue to scold me. Nor did he punish me by making me copy rules. He only instructed, you need to calm down. Get some rest first. I promised to take the children to the blessing tree, to hang blessing ribbons. I'll come to see you later. After saying that, he left, with an inexplicable air of fleeing in defeat. In the past, when I was submissive, Gu Jinyan never gave me a kind look. Now that I've turned cold, His attitude has softened instead. Is Gu Jinyan someone who bullies the weak and fears the strong? The system suddenly spoke. When you humans are told you're hated by someone you love, you should feel sad, right? Maybe Gu Jinyan was saddened by your words. I said indifferently, then he's truly fragile. The system teased, no, Jinyan is different from you. He is high and mighty and doesn't lack love. You said you hated him so bluntly. He probably can't accept the drop in status. I don't quite understand the discrepancy. Maybe it's because in this world, I have never been loved seriously once. For 7 years, I was mocked by everyone for my etiquette. But I still endured it. Because I wanted to see how happy the warm and loving life the system talked about would be. The moon passed the middle of the sky. Jinyan took Jiang Qingyan and the children out of the manor. No one ever wanted to come to my small courtyard anyway. The night was exceptionally quiet. It's fine that no one came to disturb my departure. I specifically changed into my bright red wedding dress. It was the most beautiful dress in my wardrobe. When I first came to this world, I was a beggar for most of my life, arriving dirty and unsightly, but I want to leave looking a bit more beautiful. Enduring the physical pain, I finished my hair and makeup. I heard the soft rustle of snowflakes falling outside. The snow is really heavy tonight. I stepped into the snow, raising my hand to catch a snowflake, but I caught a drop of blood from my lip first. Suddenly, the system prompted, host, please get ready. After a 5-second countdown, I will take you out of this world. 5, 4, 3. I looked at the courtyard gate. It was pitch black there. No one was coming, and no one would come. Only the system's countdown ended. Host's soul is being detached. The host's body in this small world is declared dead. At the same time, amidst the lanterns, Gu Jinyan was waiting under the tree, watching the two children climb a wooden ladder up the tree to hang their blessing bags. His heart suddenly clenched. Feeling empty, he suddenly really wanted to go back and see me, but as soon as he stepped to head back, he was interrupted by the children's shouts, praying for mother, wishing mother happiness and health, and a smooth life. Jiang Qingyan had said that a child's prayers are the most effective, so the two children had come specifically to pray for her. But Cao Cao was young and impatient. He lost his balance while on tiptoes and fell toward Gu Xiaoyan. The two of them fell straight off the platform. Gu Xiaoyan shouted in terror, "Mother, save us!" Jiang Qingyan was standing right there. Not only did she not reach out to catch them, she instinctively took a step back. The two children fell heavily to the ground. Cao Cao hit her head, and blood flowed out immediately. She was only 2 years old. When she got hurt, she could only cry out loud, "It hurts. I want Shenyang. I want Mother Shen to hold me." Gu Xiaoyan held his sister in distress. He had seen Jiang Qingyan's backward movement, and angrily questioned, "Mother, why didn't you catch us? Me and my sister fell so hard." He pouted as he spoke. "If Mother Shen were here, she definitely would have saved us. Last time I knocked over the candle holder. Mother Shen would rather be burned herself than let me be hurt. When sister fell from the rockery last time, Mother Shen was right there to cushion her fall, and didn't let sister get hurt at all. But mother, you're never there when it happens." Gu Jinyan's face grew darker and darker as he listened. His gaze turned heavy as he looked at Jiang Qingyan. He looked at Jiang Qingyan. Jiang Qingyan's expression twisted for a moment. She explained pitifully, "Jingyan, I didn't mean to. You know, my health has always been poor, so I didn't react in time." Unfortunately, Gu Jinyan had seen her action of taking a step back. With a grim face, he scolded, "Your care for the children is indeed not diligent enough." Saying that, he picked up the two children to return to the Gu manor. "Father will take you to find Mother Shen." The father and two children got into the carriage. No one noticed Jiang Qingyan's gaze behind them, full of resentment and gloom. On the way, Gu Jinyan scrambled to comfort the children. Cao Cao kept crying for me to hold her. Gu Xiaoyan was complaining, "It's all Mother Shen's fault for not coming. If she had, sister and I wouldn't have been hurt. That bitch did it on purpose." Gu Jinyan's brow twitched as he heard this. With a dark face, he scolded Gu Xiaoyan. "Who taught you to insult family members so filthily? Go back and apologize to Mother Shen immediately." Gu Xiaoyan was frightened and shuddered, tears falling instantly. But everyone calls her that. During the day, Mother Shen was whipped by grandfather's men. And grandmother even called her a beggar. Mother said Mother Shen is a slut. And that you don't like Mother Shen at all. Which is why you punish her by making her copy family rules. She also said Mother Shen interrupted the love between you and her. Mother purposely wrote letters to grandfather, so Mother Shen would be beaten. Every few days, the servants in the manor saw you don't like Mother Shen. So privately they all call her a stinking beggar. Gu Jinyan's heart sank more and more as he listened. All these years, he was busy with official duties and rarely looked into the affairs of the inner house. This was the first time he knew that this was the kind of life I was living and that I had suffered so much grievance. Suddenly, the image of my pale, dying face flashed through his mind and his unease surged rapidly. At this moment, anxiety swept over Gu Jinyan. He desperately wanted to see me. The carriage was driven by Gu Jinyan. Directly outside my courtyard, Gu Jinyan threw back the carriage curtain. Just as he jumped down, he saw two old maids scrambling out of the courtyard, shouting in terror, "Someone is dead. Lady Yuning vomited blood and has died." Gu Jinyan froze in place. He suspected he had misheard. He stared at the two maids for a while, before finally finding his voice. What What did you say? The maids cowed out in panic. Please forgive us, my lord. It's just that we were too negligent. We didn't expect that in the time it took to have a meal. Lady Yuning would vomit blood. We hurriedly went to call for the doctor, trying to save her, but the lady is already. She's still lying in the courtyard. Please, go and see for yourself. It was our negligence. Please forgive us, my lord. Gu Jinyan's feet felt like they were weighted down. He looked ahead at the silent, pitch-black courtyard. Yet his voice was very calm. You are Jiang Yuning's servants. You're helping her lie again, aren't you? Hasn't she caused enough of a scene? Go and tell her. I have something to discuss with her. Doesn't she miss the children? From now on, she can see the children anytime. And live with them. Tell her this. And she'll stop throwing tantrums. And saying she's going to die. The maids knelt on the ground, dumbfounded. Unable to answer for a long time. One of them boldly raised her head. But meeting Gu Jinyan's icy gaze, she shuddered. And immediately started kowtowing again. My lord, the lady is truly dead. Gu Jinyan pressed his lips tight. His fists were clenched inside his sleeves, showing that he was far from being as calm as he appeared. He stared hard at the maid who didn't dare to look at him. The unease in his heart grew heavier, and a lot of cold sweat broke out on his palms. After a long time, he finally said in a dry, hoarse voice, "Take me to see her." The moonlight was bright in the courtyard. A transparent soul floated in midair. I was floating in the open space, looking down at my transparent fingertips. I finally understood that my soul had floated out after death. Is this the soul after a person dies? But I didn't feel the slightest joy. Instead, my heart was icy cold, because as a soul, I actually couldn't leave my own courtyard. Nor could I leave the Jiang house. I couldn't help but ask the system. Why am I still in this world? Haven't I left yet? System, did you have a bug? The system replied quickly, don't worry. It's detected that the host's soul is currently following the host's own body. Once you are buried, your ties with this world will be completely severed, and we can completely leave this world. My lord, we've arrived. The lady's body is right here. The maids' voices came from behind, accompanied by footsteps. I turned my head, and instantly met Gu Jinyan's eyes. The man was draped in a fox fur cloak, handsome as jade. The coolness between his brows was just as when we first met. His thin lips were tightly pressed together. I was very familiar with this look. He was angry. I was somewhat confused. What was Gu Jinyan angry about? Was he angry that it was bad luck for me to die in his house? I couldn't help but say to him, if you think it's bad luck, just throw me into a mass grave. Before returning to the Jiang house, I was a beggar with no one to rely on. I used to be very afraid of being homeless, and eventually dying accidentally, and being buried randomly in a mass grave. So I tried everything to find the Jiang family, to acknowledge my biological parents, thinking I would have a home. But now I feel a mass grave wouldn't be bad either. At least it's better than staying at the Jiang house. But my words could not be heard by Gu Jinyan. Under the moonlight, I saw this extraordinary gentleman's gaze fall on my lifeless body. His whole body trembling for a moment. He walked step by step toward my body, staring fixedly at the clothes on my body. Those were the clothes I wore before I died. Gu Jinyan breathed heavily, almost stumbling as he stepped forward and knelt on one knee. He held on to my clothes. His head was lowered, so I couldn't see his expression. But after a long while, there was a soft sound, as if liquid was dripping onto the fabric. I was a bit surprised. Was Gu Jinyan crying? Before I could think further, a burst of crying and shouting suddenly came from outside. The sound was getting closer. In a moment, Cao Cao's voice came through. I want Shen Yang. I want Mother Shen to hold me. Along with it, Gu Xiaoyan was also shouting loudly, Jiang Yuning, are you being lazy again? Why don't you come and serve us quickly? Sister has been crying all the way. It's all your fault for not being there, making us suffer. I punish you by not letting you eat for 3 days. Gu Xiaoyan came running over with his sister, acting aggressively. The lanterns in the courtyard had not yet been lit. It was pitch black. Gu Xiaoyan almost tripped over the threshold when he entered. He quickly held onto the wall to steady his steps. But Cao Cao behind him was knocked over by him. Staggering and falling to the ground, Cao Cao pouted and started crying. Gu Xiaoyan froze. Clearly, it was he who knocked his sister down. But he stood with hands on his hips, shouting at me, Jiang Yuning, are you sick? Why didn't you light the lanterns tonight? You even used the threshold to trip my sister. You're finished. I'm going to tell grandmother. She'll make you kneel in the ancestral hall. His attitude was arrogant. Seeing his sister being picked up by a nearby servant, he even gave the servant a kick to vent his anger. Cursing under his breath, I floated in the air, watching all this without any emotion. These were the children Jiang Qingyan had raised. Toward me and the servants in my courtyard, they had not a shred of respect. In the past, I would have felt heartbroken. Would have tried to correct the children, and tried everything to be close to them, hoping one day we could reconcile. But Gu Xiaoyan was raised to be very sharp by Jiang Qingyan. To outsiders, he was indeed reasonable and sensible. Everyone would praise him as a good child. He was only disrespectful toward me. Jiang Qingyan would even stand by and smile gently, telling me, sister, you weren't raised by our parents. You have no upbringing or education. Since you've stayed in the countryside too long and haven't learned to be generous, the children aren't close to you because they can't stand those things. Jiang Qingyan's eyes were full of sarcasm, yet everyone agreed with what she said. Back then, I had no choice but to stay silent as no one was on my side. If I showed even the slightest bit of dissatisfaction, it would only be seen as being unreasonable and needing punishment. In the end, I could only hide under my covers and be sad privately. And now, I am already dead. Perhaps after death, one's emotions become indifferent. Perhaps after 7 years. I have already let go of my obsession. Now, hearing Gu Xiaoyan scolding me, it doesn't hurt anymore. The air was momentarily silent. A servant cautiously said to the young master, "Please don't be angry, young master. Lady Yuning, she just passed away." Gu Xiaoyan froze. For a moment, his eyes widened in surprise. Then he shook his head vigorously. "Impossible. You're lying. Father, he's lying. Quickly take him away and punish him by making him kneel," he complained to Gu Jinyan. Gu Jinyan had stood up at some point. The moonlight was bright. I clearly saw there was no expression on his face. He was still as indifferent and distant as ever. Previously, I thought he had cried for my death. It turned out to be an illusion. I thought to myself silently. Gu Jinyan closed his eyes, restraining the emotions surging in his heart. He looked at his son who was still causing a fuss. "Someone, come," when he spoke. His voice was terribly hoarse, as if it carried a sob. But just for an instant. And then it returned to normal. He signaled the servants to come forward and ordered, "Prepare the lady's body for the burial. And prepare for the funeral. The young master and Chow Chow were born of her. They should wear mourning clothes for her. They will stay in the ancestral hall tonight." From today onward, the servants were all taken aback. Gu Xiaoyan was even more stunned to hear this. "Why should I kneel for her? Does she even deserve it?" Before he could finish his sentence, his voice died out under Gu Jinyan's icy gaze. I floated nearby, more than a little surprised. Gu Jinyan was actually willing to let the children wear mourning clothes for me, but hadn't he said that on the family tree, the children are Jiang Qingyan's biological children and have nothing to do with me? By doing this, is he not afraid Jiang Qingyan will be saddened and complain? No one answered my doubt. Gu Xiaoyan was frightened by Gu Jinyan's attitude, and immediately started crying. "Father, I was wrong. I won't insult Mother Shen ever again. Please don't make me kneel for her." As soon as he cried, Chow Chow followed suit. As Chow Chow cried, she even reached out towards my floating soul. Mother Shen is bad. She's right here, so why won't she hold me?" Her eyes were glistening with tears, staring at me with such persistence. It was as if she could actually see me. My heart skipped a beat in that instant. In the next moment, Gu Jinyan's gaze suddenly shifted toward me, incredibly sharp. I instinctively tried to hide. But then I remembered I was currently in a soul state. That's right, I was already dead. Living people couldn't see my soul, so there was no need to hide. So, I raised my eyes to meet Gu Jinyan's gaze. He indeed couldn't see me. His gaze was wandering, without a focal point, deep in his eyes. I could even see a pale, empty void. I was momentarily stunned. In my memory, I had never seen such a hollow look in his eyes. As a favored son of heaven, Gu Jinyan had always been noble and composed, even when he was mocked and ridiculed. For marrying a country girl like me, he had remained steady, refuting them word by word. Now, his soul-crushed appearance seemed somewhat unusual. However, he quickly withdrew his gaze and ordered the servants, "Go change the young master and Chow Chow into mourning clothes, and have someone watch over them as they kneel." The servants each took one child away, regardless of whether Chow Chow could see me. She was, after all, only 2 years old. She couldn't even speak clearly yet, so no one would believe what she said was true. They would only think Chow Chow was too scared, and was just calling out randomly. My body was soon moved to the ancestral hall. White funeral banners were hung throughout the manor, creating a somber atmosphere. My soul followed my own remains, all the way to the ancestral hall. Gu Jinyan followed as well. He stood in the center of the hall, without saying a word, his thoughts deep and inscrutable. I heard him whisper, "Yuning, I'm sorry." He was actually apologizing to me. I was surprised. Just as I was about to drift closer to hear what he was saying, there was a knock on the door. Jiang Qingyan rushed over in a hurry. She was still wearing her festive lantern festival attire, full of joyous colors, which matched the red robe on Gu Jinyan perfectly. Upon entering and seeing my body, Jiang Qingyan wiped the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief. "Jinyan, what happened? Why did sister lose her will to live?" "It's all my fault. I didn't expect the servants to be so negligent, allowing such an accident to happen to sister." Jiang Qingyan blamed herself and admitted her faults. But Gu Jinyan, who used to comfort her immediately and feel distressed for her hard work, didn't react. Her expression darkened for an instant, but then she put on a strong smile. "Jinyan, sister turning out like this. Are you feeling guilty? You regret giving sister's children to me to raise, don't you?" "Actually, both children still think of sister. If you feel indebted, let the children recognize sister as their mother again. I don't mind." Upon hearing this, Gu Jinyan finally had a reaction. He looked at Jiang Qingyan and asked ambiguously, "You're willing to do that? Didn't you always tell me that you can't have children in this life, and only by having Xiaoyan and Chow Chow with you always can your heart be healed?" Jiang Qingyan smiled, stepped forward to hold his arm, and said with a shy expression, "I have good news for you. The imperial doctor said my health has improved. We can have our own biological children now." As she spoke, she tried to lean into Gu Jinyan's embrace. I floated in midair, moving a bit further away. When I was still alive, Jiang Qingyan always found ways to compare herself with me, constantly making me look like a wild girl from the country. From being insecure and feeling unfair, I stayed up day and night reading, trying hard to catch up, until I finally realized that, no matter how hard I tried, in everyone's eyes, I could never compare to Jiang Qingyan. I had long since given up comparing myself to her. I didn't expect that even after I was dead, I would still have to watch Jiang Qingyan and Gu Jinyan being affectionate. How unlucky. I moved even further away, wanting to stay out of sight and out of mind. In the next moment, I actually saw Gu Jinyan push Jiang Qingyan away. My eyes widened, wondering if I had seen it wrong. A burst of crying and wailing from below interrupted everything. Gu Xiaoyan and Cao Cao were carried over by servants and forced to kneel in front of the ancestral hall. The two children were crying louder than each other. Seeing Jiang Qingyan, they acted as if they had found their savior. Gu Xiaoyan crawled up and ran behind Jiang Qingyan, crying, "Mother, please save me and my sister. Father is going to make us kneel to death. Mother, didn't you teach me that Mother Shen is just a servant I can beat and scold as I please? I don't want to kneel for her." As soon as Gu Xiaoyan finished speaking, Jiang Qingyan's face changed color. She grabbed the child, covered his mouth, and gave Gu Jinyan an embarrassed smile. "Jinyan, don't listen to this child's nonsense. I've never said anything bad about sister. I've always respected her. It's just that sister has always looked down on herself." She often told the young master that she would rather be a servant just to stay by the children's side. The young master must be confused from crying so much. She probably feared Gu Xiaoyan would say something more to expose her, so she held him and tried to leave the ancestral hall. Gu Jinyan finally spoke up. "The young master cannot leave." He seemed to have accepted Jiang Qingyan's explanation. He was still very gentle with her, but he stopped Gu Xiaoyan from leaving. "Xiaoyan and Cao Cao are Yuning's biological children. They must keep vigil and we're mourning for her." I heard it clearly, and couldn't help but look at Gu Jinyan with a mocking smile. "Now that I'm dead, you suddenly acknowledge they are my biological children? If it were before, I indeed would have hoped for Gu Xiaoyan and Cao Cao to accompany me through this final journey, but after dying all alone in that courtyard, and after seeing that the two children had not a shred of attachment to me, I no longer cared for it. I gave birth to them, and I looked after them for so long. I believe I have done nothing wrong by those two children. It is I who no longer wants them. Unfortunately, no one listened to my thoughts while I was alive, and no one cares now that I am dead." Upon hearing Gu Jinyan's words, Jiang Qingyan's body also stiffened, but seeing his unquestionable attitude, she could only pout aggrievedly, obediently set Gu Xiaoyan down, and then left in a hurry, leaving behind a sentence, "Then I'll go brew some tonic for the children." Gu Jinyan didn't stop her, believing what Jiang Qingyan said as always. Then, with a cold gaze, he looked at the terrified Gu Xiaoyan. "Yuning cared most about you and Cao Cao during her life. Keep her good company." As he spoke, he signaled the servants to force the children to their knees, with no one to back him up. Gu Xiaoyan was clearly much more well-behaved. He knelt on the ground obediently and even took Cao Cao into his arms. The death of the Jiang family's mistress was a major event that naturally alarmed the mother-in-law. Gu Jinyan didn't stay long before being called to the upper room by his mother. As soon as he left, the two children couldn't maintain their kneeling posture. Gu Xiaoyan's legs hurt from kneeling. Crying, he held his sister and whispered, "Mother Shen is still such a nuisance even after she's dead. She's truly too wicked. This woman should have been cut into 1,000 pieces. She's hurt me, and she's hurt Cao Cao too." But Cao Cao was still looking in my direction, waiting for me to come closer. Cao Cao didn't understand what Gu Xiaoyan was saying, but that didn't stop her from chiming in. "Mother Shen is bad. I hate Mother Shen." I floated in the air, feeling neither sadness nor joy. I only felt for myself. Previously, it wasn't just the children. Everyone cursed me even when I was dead. Gu Xiaoyan got tired after cursing for a bit and began to discuss a plan with his sister in low tones. "When our real mother comes, we'll have her help us escape. If she refuses to help us, we'll tell father that she's been faking her illness all these years, just to steal father's attention away from Mother Shen. I also know that mother has been secretly meeting with men I don't know." Grandmother said, "That's called an illicit affair, and you can be beaten to death if caught. Mother definitely wouldn't want anyone to know, so she'll come to save us." I floated nearby and almost laughed out loud upon hearing this. So Jiang Qingyan's poor health was faked. So Gu Xiaoyan knew about all the bad things she did in secret. Not even one night after my death, the bond between Jiang Qingyan and the two children had already fallen apart. It was truly ironic. Suddenly, I didn't find the bond between Jiang Qingyan, Gu Jinyan, and the two children enviable at all. I only found it disgusting. I floated toward the window. At this moment, I desperately wanted to leave the Gu manor, away from everything that disgusted me. But then I froze on the spot. Gu Jinyan was standing by the window at some unknown point. The moonlight spilled over him, coating him in a layer of silver gray, making him look like a celestial being. An attendant beside him reported in a low voice, "My lord, the eminent monk from Fahua Temple outside the city has arrived. He is the one you ordered us to find. The one who is most capable of capturing ghosts." I was greatly alarmed. What did Gu Jinyan want with an eminent monk? Was it because of Cao Cao's shout to me? Does he suspect my vengeful soul will cause trouble after my death? Did he deliberately bring a monk to capture me and prevent me from being reincarnated? I panicked and couldn't help but clench my transparent fingertips. Gu Jinyan, can't you even let me go now that I'm dead? The system popped up to comfort me. Don't worry. Even if that monk has the ability to see you, he cannot capture you. No one can harm you anymore. I breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing that. Below, Gu Jinyan couldn't hear my question. He took a deep breath on his own and nodded. It's good that he's here. I want to see Jiang Yuning one more time. After saying that, he didn't leave immediately. There was no snow tonight. Only the howling cold wind, whipping around the corners of Gu Jinyan's robe. He stood there in silence for a long time, before whispering as if talking to himself. Just now, the manners doctor confessed. He indeed concealed the truth about Jiang Yuning's illness. It turned out Gu Jinyan had left earlier to investigate my situation over the past few years. His tone was full of self-reproach. Jiang Yuning's illness was real, but the doctor was coerced into lying, claiming she was faking it. Even the servants in the manor could bully her. Yet I knew nothing at all. I want to ask her. Why, when she was in such a situation, did she never tell me anything? The attendant was so frightened by his words that he knelt on the ground, not daring to say a single word. I calmed my emotions. Hearing this, I curled my lips. Gu Jinyan, I did tell you. I once asked him, how should servants be punished for disrespecting me and stealing my gold and silver? But at that time, Jiang Qingyan was the manager, and Gu Jinyan was biased. When Jiang Qingyan heard me say that, she only thought I was looking for trouble and instead made me apologize to her. I also told him straight out that I was dying. It was just that he didn't believe me. If he had even a shred of concern for me, he wouldn't have failed to see the pale weakness of my face. He didn't believe I was sick simply because he didn't care. So I gave a sarcastic smile. Do you feel guilty? Guilty for not paying more attention to me? Letting me die just like that? Too bad it's too late. I floated in the ancestral hall, unable to go out. Unable to see Gu Jinyan's expression outside the window. But I didn't care. I whispered my heart's desire. Gu Jinyan, now I only want to stay far away from you and never see you again. Gu Jinyan couldn't hear my words at all. He continued to do as he pleased, ordering the attendant to take him to see the monk. Meanwhile, I had calmed down. At most, it would just be dying one more time. Dying in a soul state shouldn't be painful. However, my mental preparation was for nothing. The two children were forced to kneel for 3 days, cursing my body countless times. But Gu Jinyan never brought the monk over to deal with me. I accidentally overheard the servants gossiping, saying that he took the monk to every corner of my courtyard, almost exhausting all methods, insisting that my soul was still in the courtyard, waiting for him to return. But obviously, there was nothing in my courtyard. He couldn't find me at all. I let out a heavy sigh of relief. I squatted by my body, counting the memorial tablets in the hall. 3 days passed quickly. My funeral was almost over, and soon I would be buried in the cemetery, never to return. On the day of the burial, Gu Jinyan finally came to the ancestral hall. I almost didn't recognize him. After not seeing him for just 3 days, he had become haggard and worn out, with deep dark circles under his eyes, looking as if he hadn't slept at all. However, his back was still as straight as ever. He came to the coffin, reached out to help change my body into burial clothes, and adjusted the collar. His dark eyes were deep and somber. Looking at him, my heart skipped a beat. I had a vaguely ominous feeling. Soon, that premonition came true. When my coffin was carried out of the ancestral hall, the eminent monk was waiting at the door, and locked onto my position with a single glance. The old monk must have also been forced to stay awake for 3 days. He was sluggishly chanting sutras. Upon seeing me, his gaze fixed firmly on me, he shouted loudly, "Wait! Lord Gu, do you truly wish to see Lady Yuning?" The funeral procession was halted. My heart jumped, and I tentatively took a step forward. In the next second, the old monk's gaze followed my movement. He could indeed see me. I was somewhat flustered, but remembering the system's guarantee, I calmed down again. "Monk, don't meddle in things that don't concern you. I don't want to see Gu Jinyan." At the same time, Gu Jinyan's voice rang out, carrying a thick huskiness. "I naturally want to see Yuning. She is my wife, and the most important person to me." I heard it clearly, and was instantly disgusted. "Gu Jinyan, didn't you wish I didn't exist? You should be happy now that I'm dead. 7 years ago, when I married you, you loathed me to the core. If I had a choice, I only want to be far away from you." My soul drifted away, staying far from Gu Jinyan. Strangely enough, even though Gu Jinyan clearly couldn't hear what I said, at the moment I finished speaking, he suddenly clutched his chest. Gu Jinyan gasped for breath. His heart had been aching faintly for 3 days, but he never understood why. And at this moment, the pain in his heart intensified, making it almost impossible to breathe. The monk took everything in, chanted a Buddha's name, and said, "Benefactor, you say you feel great guilt toward your wife, and only wish to apologize to her. I can convey that for you. But your wife is already dead. Yin and Yang are separated. You need not be so obsessed with seeing her," he advised him sincerely. But Gu Jinyan shook his head. "Thank you, master, but Yuning is my wife. I want to speak with her personally." The monk looked at him with pity. "But your wife has refused to appear. That means she doesn't want to see you." I slowly began to relax. From the monk's tone, it seemed he was on my side. But I celebrated too early. Gu Jinyan didn't want to give up. He promised in a deep voice, if the master helps me, I am willing to donate 500,000 to build 2 merit halls. I only wish to see her once. The monk hesitated. He looked toward me. I drifted even further away. Either let me die again, or let me leave the Gu family. Anyway, meeting Gu Jinyan is impossible. The monk shook his head with a small smile. Madam, you must be joking. You are already dead. How can you die again? I stopped speaking. But Gu Jinyan captured the key words from the monk's speech. Word. He couldn't help but take a step forward. Who is the master talking to? Is it my wife, Yuning? He turned toward my direction and tentatively called out my name. I kept drifting backward. Drifting very far away. I'm dead, and it has nothing to do with you anymore. I'm not your wife either. Gu Jinyan couldn't see me or hear me. A trace of irritability vaguely surfaced in his eyes. He could only plead with the monk over and over again, asking the monk to help him see me. The monk sighed helplessly. Benefactor, you and your wife were forced into marriage. You were both eyesores to each other. Why persist? Gu Jinyan was stunned. After a long while, he whispered to himself. I never hated her. I just didn't know how to face her. If I could go back to the past, and if I had known sooner that she was suffering, that she was being mistreated, I would have been more attentive. I gave a cold laugh upon hearing that. If I could go back to the past, I would rather have never met you. Perhaps because my attitude was so firm. The monk respected the wishes of the deceased. Afterward, no matter how much Gu Jinyan pleaded, or tried to coerce and bribe him, the monk never spoke again. My coffin was successfully buried. Gu Jinyan followed all the way to the cemetery, watching my body being buried. His eyes dark and gloomy, but he didn't stop it. The moment the tombstone was erected, my soul began to feel lighter. The system said in my ear, you will soon be able to leave this place. Is it time to go? That's good. May we never meet again. At the same time, Gu Jinyan suddenly felt a surge of heart palpitations, as if something was about to leave him. The ominous premonition made him instantly alert. He seemed to suddenly understand something. And stopped the servants from erecting my tombstone. She cannot be buried. Dig the coffin back out. If she's buried, her soul will be reincarnated. Gu Jinyan seemed to have gone mad. He wanted to dig up the body that had just been buried. The servants were all trembling with fear. At this point, my soul had become lighter and lighter. Perhaps with just a puff of wind, I could immediately break free from this world. So I looked at Gu Jinyan and chuckled softly. Too late, Gu Jinyan. I'm leaving. May we never meet again. As I finished speaking, Gu Jinyan seemed to have heard my words. He suddenly turned his head to look at me. He opened his mouth, urgently trying to hold me back. Yuning, Xiaoyan and Cao Cao, they are still waiting for you. I only found it laughable. While I was alive, he wouldn't let me near the children. After I'm dead, he uses the 2 children to try and keep me. Doesn't he find it absurd? Regrettably, I want neither him nor the children anymore. The system's announcement sounded in my ear. 3, 2, 1. Exiting the world. The final moment. I saw Gu Jinyan rushing toward me, reaching out to grab the corner of my clothes, but he missed. Suddenly, the system alarm went off. My world spun around. When I regained my senses, I found that I hadn't entered the next world the system had mentioned. The system's exasperated voice rang out. Gu Jinyan. That madman. He went crazy after you left. To bring you back to life, he resorted to many dark arts. He has committed too much slaughter. Your karma has become intertwined with his. We can't leave now. I widened my eyes in surprise. What should we do then? The system said. I'm sending you back to be reborn now. You must go and resolve this karma with Gu Jinyan. Remember, after you are reborn, do not have any involvement with Gu Jinyan. This reborn world is to correct the karma of your past life. I cannot follow you. You must live a good life this time. I wish you happiness. With that, the system's voice vanished. Immediately after, I felt my body suddenly become heavy. When I regained consciousness again, I found myself standing on a familiar street. I recognized it at a glance. This was the prayer fair at Fahua Temple. Before marrying Gu Jinyan, this was my favorite place to visit. So this is the rebirth the system spoke of. Then, to what point in time have I been reborn? Just as I was wondering, I was suddenly pushed hard from behind and fell to the ground. Then, several shrill and mean voices reached my ears. How dare a little maid block the carriage? Young Master Gu Jinyan is not someone you can dream of. Exactly. How could young Master Jinyan ever fancy you? Whose maid are you anyway? Coming out here to make a fool of yourself. Look at your shabby appearance. Even a single glance is nauseating. I lay on the ground, the pebbles grinding into my palm painfully. The pain made me gasp for air. Before I could react, a pair of well-defined hands reached out and firmly helped me up. I raised my head to give thanks, only to unexpectedly lock eyes with Gu Jinyan. Gu Jinyan, why are you here? I cried out and instinctively pushed him away, taking several steps back. How is it that I see this man as soon as I'm reborn? He truly is haunting me. While my mind was racing, Gu Jinyan frowned and corrected me. Miss Jiang, you were the one who came looking for me. The way he addressed me was very formal, and his attitude was full of distance. Startled, I looked closely at Gu Jinyan. His face was handsome, his expression cold and aloof, but his features still held a youthful look. He didn't look like the vice minister I saw before I died. Instead, he looked like the young man I first met years ago. After the initial shock, a suspicion formed in my heart. Have I returned to 7 years ago? To the day I hadn't yet married Gu Jinyan? Sure enough, seeing me remain silent, Gu Jinyan spoke again. Miss Jiang, please reconsider. If you insist on marrying into the Gu family, you will not have a good life in the future. At this point in time, Gu Jinyan still hoped to persuade me to change my mind. So he wouldn't have to marry me. I looked around at my surroundings. In my past life, to make Gu Jinyan marry me, I had specifically sought out his whereabouts and blocked his carriage at the temple fair. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, I publicly announced that I would marry him. The young ladies nearby, hearing this, all came to mock and belittle me, pushing me to the ground, to make me a laughingstock. Now, those same ladies were still watching the spectacle, waiting for Gu Jinyan to reject me and humiliate me in public. I laughed. I was no longer the person I was in my past life. Even without the system by my side, I would live a good life. I took a few more steps back, putting distance between myself and Gu Jinyan. I looked up at this man, my husband from my past life, and a stranger in this one. I said each word clearly. You are right. Marrying you would indeed result in a miserable life. So, I won't marry you anymore. I took out the engagement contract I had been hiding. As soon as the contract appeared, I clearly saw Gu Jinyan's expression change. In my past life, I used it to successfully threaten him. He was forced to admit our engagement and marry me, but in this life, in front of him, I threw the engagement contract into the nearby incense burner. I watched it turn to ashes in the fire. Gu Jinyan, we have no engagement. From now on, we have no connection. After burning the contract, I felt an immediate sense of relief. Looking at Gu Jinyan again, he seemed not to have processed it yet, staring at the fire without moving for a long time, as if in a daze. So, I gave him a final assurance. Rest assured, even if you go mad and want to marry me, I won't even look at you anymore. As soon as I said this, the surrounding crowd broke into an uproar. The glares from those young ladies were sharp enough to poke holes in me. Gu Jinyan finally moved his gaze and looked at me again. At this moment, his gaze was dark and heavy. My heart skipped a beat silently. I felt this look was somewhat familiar. It was like the persistent, unwilling look Gu Jinyan gave me before my soul dissipated in my past life. But Gu Jinyan didn't do anything crazy. Instead, he reminded me, don't stand by the furnace. It's dangerous. I looked at him doubtfully, only seeing the same distance in his eyes as before. Perhaps because I burned the engagement contract and removed his greatest threat, he was in a good enough mood to offer a reminder. That makes sense. In the past life, I was the one who died, not Gu Jinyan. How could he have been reborn too? I shook off the shadows in my heart and replied casually, all right. Thank you for the concern. After the polite exchange, I turned to leave. Behind me, Gu Jinyan called out to stop me again. Miss Jiang, our families have always been on good terms. The weather is cold and the road is slippery. If you're going home, I can give you a ride. Hearing this, I didn't turn back. No need, we have no relation to each other. We weren't going the same way. Gu Jinyan was just being polite. I wouldn't take it seriously. I started walking again. It was deep autumn, and the wind was strong. I was only wearing thin, shabby clothes that weren't warm at all. When the wind blew, I shivered. It was laughable. The Jiang family was the residence of the Minister of Rites, wealthy and powerful. My biological father wasn't a stingy man, but the clothes the Jiangs gave their own daughter were even worse than those of maids in other noble houses. The Jiang family had ruined me. They never intended to raise me properly, allowing me to be called a wild girl who knew nothing, subjecting me to endless ridicule. In my past life, my parents were biased toward Jiang Qingyan, the fake daughter, and decided to marry me off to a teacher who had beaten his previous wife to death. Out of desperation, I forced Gu Jinyan to marry me, which led to my lonely death in the past life. In this life, although I have cut ties with Gu Jinyan, it's not enough. I must marry myself off as soon as possible, to avoid being plotted against by the Jiang family. While I was frowning and trying to think of a way, voices came from behind me again. I looked toward the sound, and saw Gu Jinyan from a distance, walking toward the back mountain of Fahua Temple. He was accompanied by the delicate Jiang Qingyan. It turned out they were here for a secret rendezvous at the fair. I had no interest in watching, and was about to leave quietly, but I caught a glimpse of Gu Jinyan looking over. He seemed to have spotted me. He didn't pull Jiang Qingyan away. Instead, he walked over quickly, seemingly looking for me. I immediately retreated a few steps and slipped into the temple's back courtyard. Footsteps slowly approached. Jiang Qingyan's confused voice came, Jinyan? Why did you suddenly leave me behind? Who are you looking for? After a pause, Gu Jinyan said, I thought I saw an acquaintance. I leaned against the gate wall and rolled my eyes. In this life, Gu Jinyan and I are not close at all. I even find it annoying just being near him. Perhaps the heavens heard my desire to avoid him. Gu Jinyan intended to search the back courtyard, but was led away by a young novice monk passing by. I breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't want to stay any longer and just wanted to head down the mountain quickly. Suddenly, there was a creak behind me. The courtyard door was pushed open. I turned my head and was startled to see the high monk I saw after my death in the past life walking out with a man and a woman. When they saw me, instead of scolding me for trespassing on the back mountain. Their eyes lit up and they walked toward me. I froze in place, not knowing how to react. I heard this monk at Fa Hua Temple was very spiritual. He couldn't have discovered I'm reborn, could he? I held my breath nervously, only to see the monk press his palms together and smile at me. Benefactor, you've come at just the right time. These two guests beside me wish to seek your assistance. I was properly invited into the meditation room. Hot tea was brewing before me. Only then did I learn that the monk hadn't discovered I was reborn. Rather, these guests had come seeking his help. He had calculated that the person who entered the courtyard at this time could help his guests out of their predicament. That person happened to be me. The monk said comfortingly, do not be nervous. These two guests are from the Jinan Marquis residence. Both the sister and brother often visit the mountain to help the poor. They are very kind people. The sister, Qin Xian, wore magnificent robes with a graceful and kind expression. The brother beside her carried a sword, dressed in martial attire. I hadn't met them in my past life, because they were both about to die. It said that the Jinan Marquis family was full of martyrs, leaving only this pair of siblings. The sister, Qin Xian, had been seriously ill for a long time. A month later, when the brother, Qin Go, was about to go to war in the south, he was poisoned to death. Qin Xian died of excessive grief on the same day. Thinking of this, I gave the siblings a strange look. What do you want me to help with? I'm just a wild girl. I can't help with anything. Qin Xian coughed. It's my illness. Miss Jiang, the monk said only you can cure me. I paused, feeling a bit hesitant. I don't know how to practice medicine, but I had heard about Qin Xian's case in my past life. Qin Xian had a congenital deficiency. She had been married for 5 years without conceiving and wouldn't live long. Coincidentally, Jiang Qingyan had a medicinal prescription that she almost never used. It was specifically for treating congenital deficiencies. She had used it to pretend to be sick. To get along with her, I used my only accumulated points to exchange it from the system. However, in the past life, she lived even longer than I did. I really can help Qin Xian. But even if I give her the prescription, Qingge still has to go to war and will be poisoned. Qin Xian still won't survive the month. I was very hesitant. Qin Xian's eyes dimmed. She forced a smile. Miss Jiang, as long as you can cure my illness, no matter what request you have, the Jinan Marquis residence will do its best to fulfill it. I hope you will consider it carefully. She didn't pressure me, but personally saw me out. I felt a bit embarrassed, but I couldn't just tell them. Stop trying, you two. No matter what happens, you will both be dead in a month. I left the meditation room full of conflict. Unknowingly, I turned a corner and suddenly bumped into someone. I almost stumbled and fell, but a hand firmly caught my waist to steady me. Looking up, it was Gu Jinyan again. It really is you. Miss Jiang, didn't you go home? He had the nerve to question me first. I pushed his hand away. I'm here to visit the fair. I like the excitement. What's wrong with staying a bit longer? Gu Jinyan pursed his lips. He glanced at me. Then at the Jiang family carriage waiting at the entrance. His eyes were cold, meaning to say that I had specifically sought out the carriage to follow them. Was I not there specifically for him? But I really wasn't. I said coldly. I just took the wrong path. Gu Jinyan didn't speak. I knew he didn't believe me. But it didn't matter. Who cares what he thinks? I'm no longer that person from my past life who had to wait for him to give me a little charitable warmth just to survive. In this life, I don't need to care about his feelings at all. I turned to leave, but remembered something before I went. I turned back to Gu Jinyan. By the way, I haven't wished you and Jiang Qingyan a long and happy marriage yet. Your good news must be near, right? My parents are looking forward to you proposing every day. Hurry up and propose and hold the wedding. Bind yourself to Jiang Qingyan quickly, and stop involving yourself with me. I was saying something good, but Gu Jinyan seemed to have taken it the wrong way. Are you finished? Don't talk about Qingyan like that. Just as he was about to scold me, a voice from behind interrupted him. Miss Jiang. Qin Ge, whom I just said goodbye to, actually chased after me. Dressed in his martial uniform, he stood tall and handsome. I have something to discuss with you. I immediately agreed. Then let's find a quiet place to talk. Ignoring Gu Jinyan, I pulled Qin Ge along into an empty courtyard. While closing the courtyard door, I kept looking out, afraid Gu Jinyan would follow. However, in the next moment, I was stunned by Qin Ji's words. The man looked down at me and asked very seriously, Miss Jiang, are you willing to marry me? For a moment, I thought I had misheard. I turned to Qin Ge. Say that again? I was too shocked to notice that Qin Ji's ears had turned red. He looked down and repeated it, every word clear. Then he explained, Miss Jiang, I just had someone look into your affairs. The Jiang family doesn't treat you well. Your mother says they are about to arrange a marriage for you soon. But not a single reputable young man has been received. I suspect this marriage is not a good one. You should be in a hurry to get married. In that case, is it okay to marry me? In exchange, please cure my sister. I stared at him blankly, unable to react for a while. The next moment, the door was slammed open. Gu Jinyan's voice came through. You said, who wants to marry whom? How can marriage be decided so hastily? I remembered Gu Jinyan had always been like a flower on a high peak, the bright moon over the mountains. When did he become such a thick-skinned person who follows others and eavesdrops on their conversations? I looked coldly at the man who barged in. What does this have to do with you? No one welcomes you here. Please leave. Being rudely driven away by me. Gu Jinyan's face darkened. He saw that I was leaving with another man without hesitation, and had followed us on a whim. Now, even when told to leave, he wouldn't go, making an excuse instead. Our families are close friends. You are the daughter of Uncle and Aunt Jiang. If someone tries to trick you into marriage and ruins your reputation, naturally I must intervene. Miss Jiang, your parents have their own arrangements for your marriage. You shouldn't make a private commitment with someone. It would have been better if he hadn't mentioned them, but mentioning them immediately reminded me of that teacher the Jiang family found who beat his wife. He had a violent temper and beat his first wife to death. A person like that, a marriage like that. And I should still listen to my father and mother? Listen to them so I can spend the rest of my life in hell? I might as well marry Qingge. Even though Qingge died in my past life, and there's a risk of being widowed if I marry him, that's still 10,000 times better than either that teacher or Gu Jinyan. My train of thought suddenly stopped, and everything became clear. Thinking about it, marrying Qingge doesn't seem like a bad idea. My eyes lit up, and I looked up at Qingge. It's fine if you want me to marry you. I have one condition. As I spoke, Gu Jinyan's expression changed abruptly. Jiang Yuning. I was startled, glancing at Gu Jinyan's inexplicably cold face, and his clenched fists, which he didn't even notice himself. A surge of anger rose in my heart. Sir, I'll say it again. I have nothing to do with you. Please call me Miss Jiang. We aren't so close that we can address each other by name. Me, this wild girl from the countryside, had disrespected him several times now, which clearly angered Gu Jinyan. He narrowed his eyes, his tone cold. Didn't you just beg me to marry you? I hurriedly glanced at Qingge, and saw him standing between Gu Jinyan and me, seemingly protecting me. Seeing that he didn't react to Gu Jinyan's words, I felt relieved and denied it categorically. That didn't happen. I just mistook you for someone else earlier. Anyway, the engagement contract was burned. I had nothing to fear. Saying this, I grew curious. Previously, you didn't want anything to do with me. Now that I'm marrying someone else, shouldn't you be happy? What is wrong with Gu Jinyan today? In my past life, the moment he saw me, he would definitely have ignored me, turned around, and left. In the past life, he wasn't happy when I died. In this life, I'm not bothering him, and he's still unhappy. Does he only feel happy if I'm trapped in the Jiang family, and tormented by the whole family? Is he just against me? Gu Jinyan was speechless. He just heard the young girl say she was going to marry someone else, and he felt very panicked. As for why he was panicked, he couldn't say. I didn't wait for his answer, and prepared to take Qingge elsewhere to talk. Who knew that after only 2 steps, my wrist would be pulled forcefully? Yuning, I still have something to say. Caught off guard by the pull, my wrist hurt intensely. I cried out in pain, and instinctively swung my hand. A crisp slap rang out. The air went silent. The autumn wind whistled past, making the hem of my clothes dance wildly. It sounded like it was cheering. I pulled my hand back, and gave an insincere apology. I didn't do it on purpose. It was Gu Jinyan who hurt me with his pull. He brought that slap upon himself. Gu Jinyan's emotion seemed to cool down. His face was dark. Gu Jinyan stared at me with dark eyes. Any intention of pestering me gone. He could only say coldly, for a young lady of a noble house to rashly make a private commitment is against the rules. Just like in my past life, he was reprimanding me with that same tone of cold disapproval. In my past life, not wanting to disappoint him, I would have fearfully admitted my mistake. Sinking into self-blame and low self-esteem, I was alone and helpless in the Jiang family. I did whatever he told me to do. But now, I retorted without ceremony. I am no lady of a noble house. Besides, when you accompany Jiang Qingyan on her outings, you don't seem to think it's against the rules. The magistrates may set fires, but the commoners are not allowed to light lamps. Seeing Gu Jinyan's face darken further, I breathed a sigh of relief. It felt so good not to care about his expression. Once again, I felt lucky that I had severed my ties with him in this life. I looked at him as if seeing him anew. Gu Jinyan, the Jiang family is a family of scholars, valuing reputation above all else. As the eldest son of the Gu family, please don't shamelessly pester me anymore. Otherwise, it would be quite embarrassing. After saying that, I pulled Qingge away, using the words the Jiang family used to corner me in my past life to retort Gu Jinyan instead. It was truly satisfying. Behind me, Gu Jinyan's face turned pale and then flushed with anger. However, he finally stopped chasing after us, likely feeling it was too humiliating. Finally, I could have a few words alone with Qingge. The meditation room in the backyard was silent. Qingge sat opposite me with his head bowed, occasionally glancing up at me. I felt as if he were being shy. But this man was from the Marquis of Jin's estate. A young Marquis who killed enemies on the battlefield without blinking. Could he really be shy? It must be an illusion. I shook off those ridiculous thoughts. I cleared my throat. Young Marquis, I can marry you. But you must first write me a letter of separation. I wanted a divorce agreement. With it, I would be free. Once I get past father and mother when and avoid being married off to that teacher. Then while I'm Qin Ji's wife, I can leave whenever I'm unhappy. I'll never have to be like in my past life, where everything I did depended on my husband's mood. This condition was shocking. Who asks for a separation letter before getting married? Qingge was clearly stunned. I was prepared for him to question me, and I had even prepared an explanation to try and persuade him, but he just looked at me for a long time, hesitating to speak. I didn't know what he was thinking, and felt a bit unable to hold out, wanting to explain. But before I could speak, he nodded and agreed. All right. He asked a young monk to bring paper and ink. It wasn't until I saw Qingge write the separation letter with my own eyes, sign it, and hand it to me, that I snapped back to reality. He actually agreed to write a divorce agreement before we're even married. He actually was willing to do it. I thought in a daze. Actually, Qingge is quite a decent person. I tucked the letter away and told him, then I'll wait for your proposal. Be quick. I hope to have the engagement settled with you within 3 days. Qingge was stunned again. But since this was easy to agree to, he nodded. I left Fahua Temple. And I didn't know that after I left. Qingge watched my back, muttering helplessly, am I really that untrustworthy? To marry me, she has to have a separation letter first. Qin Xian had appeared at the door at some point to tease her brother. If you just go and propose right away, you'll be lucky if you don't get beaten. Miss Jiang probably just wants peace of mind. I can tell she has a lot on her mind. Qingge nodded silently. She wants the proposal as soon as possible. We'll go back and prepare immediately. I knew nothing of the siblings' conversation in the room. After leaving Fahua Temple, there were no more disturbances. I returned home smoothly. But as soon as I entered the Jiang family gates, a slap came flying towards me. You rebellious girl, so you actually came back. What were you trying to do today? Blocking the Gu family carriage? The good mood I had upon returning vanished instantly. I didn't stand there foolishly to be hit. I took a few steps back and dodged the slap. Seeing that I didn't stand still to be beaten, Father Wen gave a heavy, cold snort. Mother Wen was also full of coldness. I glanced around and saw Jiang Qingyan crying nearby with a look of grievance. I instantly understood why Father and Mother Wen were so angry. Sure enough, the next moment, Jiang Qingyan spoke up aggrievedly. Father, Mother, I don't know what sister said to Jingyan today, or if she threatened him. He's been unhappy the whole time. He didn't even see me home just now and kept saying he needed to talk to sister. I'm so scared. If Jingyan falls in love with sister, what should I do? After she spoke, Father and Mother Wen grew even angrier. Mother Wen pointed at my nose and cursed, Jiang Yuning, have you no shame? Jingyan is our Qingyan's fiancé. And yet you go and seduce him. Did you also steal the engagement contract from the house, hoping to threaten Jingyan into marrying you? Are you completely shameless? Though she cursed harshly, her eyes revealed a sense of unease. Father and Mother Wen, it seemed, were afraid I really would threaten Gu Jingyan. If I married into the Gu family, it would save face, so they might actually agree. But having lived my life once already, how could I possibly jump into that pit of fire again? I said expressionlessly, I will not marry Gu Jingyan. Before they could doubt me, I pulled something from my robes. I have already made a commitment to another man. This is the token he gave me. He is a military officer. Within 3 days, he will come to propose. At that time, Father and Mother, you just need to agree. I didn't mention Qin Ji's status, but as long as I don't get involved with Gu Jingyan, the Jiang family should be very supportive. As expected, Father and Mother Wen didn't get angry again. They were skeptical, but for the time being, they remained silent. Only Jiang Qingyan muttered a sentence, Sister, a proposal in 3 days? That's such a short time. He doesn't take you seriously at all. Whose family proposes in such a rush? Sister, don't you want to think it over? I gave her a fake smile. It's fine, as long as I'm willing. After that, no one else came to find trouble with me. I spent a peaceful and quiet day. Until the next evening, while I was passing through the garden, I saw Gu Jingyan and Jiang Qingyan from a distance. Jiang Qingyan was holding his arm, asking aggrievedly, Jingyan, did my sister go to see you yesterday? Sister has always wanted the best for herself at home. She resents me for taking the wealthy life she should have had. She wants to snatch everything she sees that is mine. She sent me to live in the woodshed and wouldn't let me eat or dress well. Father and Mother feel guilty toward her, so they give in to her every whim. After she found out I had an engagement with you, she wanted to take you away too. I'm so afraid my sister will steal you away. But I only have you. Gu Jingyan. Hearing this, he lowered his head and smoothed Jiang Qingyan's hair, comforting her. Don't worry, what belongs to you, no one can take away. Watching their affectionate display, I almost laughed out loud. Jiang Qingyan really knew how to twist the truth. In the Jiang family, it was clearly Father and Mother Wen, thinking of Jiang Qingyan's well-being, who arranged for me to live in the servants' quarters. Jiang Qingyan wore the latest embroidered silks, while I wore only the plain clothes she didn't want. Who exactly was the one suffering? As I thought this, I really did laugh out loud. Gu Jingyan and Jiang Qingyan both turned their gazes toward me. Ignoring Gu Jingyan's expression, I only stated my position to Jiang Qingyan. Jiang Qingyan, rest assured, I don't care for this gentleman. If you do, then by all means, keep a good eye on him. Jiang Qingyan's face darkened, but after a moment, she began to smile again. Jingyan is coming to propose to me soon. She spoke with a hint of boasting. Gu Jingyan didn't stop her. Instead, he looked at me with a look that carried an inexplicable meaning. I met his gaze and gave a brilliant smile. Congratulations. Gu Jinyan's gaze suddenly darkened. His hand, hanging inside his sleeve, suddenly clenched tightly. His breath hitched for a moment. Then he turned and said to Jiang Qingyan, didn't you say you were tired? Go back and rest early. He had no intention of seeing her back. Jiang Qingyan's smile stiffened for a second. Then she forced her lips back into a smile. Alright. She gave me a cold glare, before slowly leaving. Only Gu Jinyan and I were left in the garden. He looked down at me, his voice cold and indifferent. The Gu family needs a mistress of the house. Qingyan has been raised since childhood to be a future mistress. She is well educated. Everyone in the Gu family has already accepted her. My mother also has high hopes for her. Gu Jinyan seemed to be explaining to me why he wanted to marry Jiang Qingyan. Hearing this, I suddenly understood. No wonder in my past life, whether it was the Jiang family or the Gu family, no one liked me. It turns out my marrying Gu Jinyan usurped the goal Jiang Qingyan had held since childhood, and frustrated everyone's expectations. Fortunately, I didn't repeat the same mistake in this life. I looked at Gu Jinyan and gave my sincere blessings. I understand. You and Jiang Qingyan are the perfect match. I wish you an early marriage to Jiang Qingyan. Everyone will be happy when you go back. I offered my sincere blessings. But Gu Jinyan's brow furrowed tightly. He stared at my face, his eyes searching, but he couldn't see even a hint of reluctance or insincerity. For some reason, a surge of inexplicable anger rose in his heart. He suppressed that nameless fire, and said coldly, naturally, I will propose soon. As soon as the words left his lips, he turned around and left abruptly. I watched his angry back, feeling a bit confused. Why did he suddenly get angry? Forget it, I didn't want to know what he was thinking. Time passed quickly. Between Qin Ge and me, for our 3-day agreement, only the last day remained. But Gu Jinyan was the first to come and propose. Gu Jinyan wore a snowy white fox fur cloak. He looked like a gentleman as refined as jade. Riding a tall horse, he looked magnificent and imposing. Behind him was a long queue of carriages filled with betrothal gifts. The Gu family was announcing with great fanfare that they were coming to propose to the daughter of the Jiang family. Such a grand spectacle. Such a handsome fiancé. Anyone who saw it would be green with envy. Jiang Qingyan was exceptionally happy. She practically dragged me to the main hall to show off. Sister, Jinyan is so good to me. Don't you agree? I gave a perfunctory reply. Yes. As we spoke, Gu Jinyan entered the main gate. He strode forward, his gaze lingering on me for a moment. Before indifferently looking away, he said warmly to Jiang Qingyan, it's cold today. Wear more layers. Don't catch a cold. Jiang Qingyan smiled and hugged his arm. I'm not afraid of the cold. As she spoke, as if remembering something, she turned to me with feigned concern. Sister, didn't you say someone would come to propose to you within 3 days? It's already the last day. Why hasn't he come yet? Before I could respond, Gu Jinyan's movement suddenly stopped. He abruptly turned to look at me, his voice cold and deep. Who is proposing to you? I responded calmly, then paused for a moment. To avoid being targeted again by father and mother when I added, what I said is true. Even if he hasn't arrived yet, he might just be delayed. He will definitely come later. I was very certain. After all, Qin Xian still needed the prescription from me for her illness. I lowered my head, calculating, and didn't notice that after hearing my words, Gu Jinyan's thin lips tightened into a hard line. His heart once again flared with a nameless fire. Jiang Qingyan also didn't notice Gu Jinyan's abnormality, and was still laughing and mocking me. I'm not questioning that sister is lying. I'm just a bit worried for you. Sister, have you considered that the person you made a private commitment with might have regretted it? After all, sister is illiterate, and has a bad reputation. It's only natural that someone would find her beneath him. I smiled. He won't. Gu Jinyan's eyes grew even darker, and he stared at me coldly. At this moment, Father and Mother Wen finally arrived. Father Wen sat in the primary seat with a face full of smiles. He then feigned a cough of dignity, asking even though he already knew, Jinyan, you've come today with such generous gifts. What is your purpose? Gu Jinyan came back to his senses, cupped his hands in a respectful salute, and said clearly, Uncle Jiang, I've come today to propose marriage to your daughter, Jiang Yuning. Gu Jinyan actually said he wanted to marry Jiang Yuning. His gaze fell upon me, his expression deep and cold. It was as if he were holding his breath, out of his mind. Blurted out my name. The hall fell into a dead silence. Only I suddenly looked up, my eyes wide as I stared at Gu Jinyan. What madness had possessed him to want to marry me? Gu Jinyan didn't have a shred of affection for me. His saying he wanted to marry me was meant to push me into a fire pit. Could it be that he was also reborn? Because he was dissatisfied that I died early in my past life and he hadn't tormented me enough, so he wanted to continue in this life? I stared hard at Gu Jinyan before I could speak. I heard Jiang Qingyan give a sob. Her face was full of grievance, tears falling like rain. Jinyan. Beside her, Father and Mother Wen were also stunned for a long time before they reacted. Father Wen, with a dark face, awkwardly tried to smooth things over. Haha, Jinyan, did you misspeak? Don't you go making Qingyan sad. Gu Jinyan's gaze turned toward Jiang Qingyan, finally waking up. Even he didn't know why, in a momentary fit of anger, the person he asked for was not Jiang Qingyan. He suppressed the inexplicable reluctance in his heart, opened his mouth, and finally corrected himself. My apologies. I did indeed misspeak. The one I wish to marry is Qingyan. The atmosphere in the whole hall relaxed. That's more like it. Gu Jingyan and Jiang Qingyan have an engagement from childhood. They are a match made in heaven. Mother Wen gave me a vicious glare, stepped forward and pinched my arm, while pushing me aside. She said to Gu Jingyan, Jingyan, your aunt was just saying, how could you possibly take an interest in Yuning? She's illiterate, and her speech and behavior are crude. In the words of outsiders, to marry into a family like ours, even a lowly servant would be considered a catch for her. Only some dubious characters would want to marry her. Before she could finish her sentence, a servant hurried in from outside to report, from the Marquis of Jinnan's estate, someone has come to propose marriage to Miss Yuning. The servant's tone was hesitant, as if he couldn't believe it. Father and Mother Wen were also stunned, both looking at me in astonishment. I was jubilant in my heart. It seemed I hadn't misplaced my trust. If Qingge promised it, he really could do it. I turned around, ready to go out and greet them, but was held tightly by a hand. Turning my head, I met Gu Jingyan's dark gaze. You cannot marry him. His tone left no room for doubt. He waved his hand forcefully, telling the servant to turn away the people from the Marquis of Jinnan's estate. My face immediately brightened with defiance. What does it matter to you whom I marry? Using all my strength to shake off his hand, I took a few steps back, preparing to head straight out the door. However, while dodging, I accidentally bumped into a heater at the side of the hall. The stove fell to the ground with a clang, and flaming coals tumbled out, instantly igniting the door curtain. Seeing this, Gu Jingyan's pupil shrank. Almost instantly, he lunged forward, protecting me tightly in his arms, and retreated far away. Yuning, are you all right? Are you hurt? His voice was trembling. Very different from usual. I was stunned for a second, feeling the hands gripping me were also trembling. It seemed Gu Jingyan was a bit afraid of fire. I was a bit speechless. I tried hard to break free from his confinement. Let go of me. What madness has possessed Gu Jingyan today? I was trying my best to avoid getting involved with him, so why wouldn't he just let me go? I was certain I hadn't offended him in this life, but Gu Jingyan would not let go for anything, staring fixedly at that small clump of fire as if he were seeing something terrifying. I heard his low murmur in my ear, Yuning, the fire almost reached you. If you were hurt because of this, if you disappeared from my sight again, I would go mad once more. My movements paused. What did Gu Jingyan mean by that? Before I could figure out what was going on, the embrace holding me tight suddenly went slack. Gu Jingyan's figure suddenly slumped, and he fainted away. Seeing Gu Jingyan's tall figure falling, I couldn't help but be startled for a moment, instinctively reaching out to support him. Jiang Qingyan, who had been startled into standing still by the series of events, finally came back to her senses. She cried out and snatched Gu Jingyan back. Jiang Qingyan even screamed at me. What did you do to Jingyan? Don't you touch him. I immediately snapped back to reality and took several steps back as if avoiding a plague. It has nothing to do with me. Father and Mother Wen also woke from their shock and immediately rushed over, urgently telling someone to call a doctor. Mother Wen even pointed at me and cursed, get lost. It must be your presence here that's cursed Jingyan. What bad luck. As she spoke, she hurriedly had Gu Jingyan carried to a bed in the inner room. I gave a cold laugh, didn't follow them, and turned to leave decisively. I didn't see that behind me. Gu Jingyan, sensing my presence leaving, had an eyelid flicker, as if he were trying to wake up. But in the end, he didn't wake up. I went straight out the door, and met Qingge and Qin Xian alone. The Wen family was busy. Gu Jingyan was unconscious, so I made the decision myself and successfully settled my own engagement. Qin Xian was already married to a prince of the court, acting as a matchmaker in her capacity as a princess consort. Seeing me hosting them alone, Qin Xian showed a look of pity. Yuning, the Marquis of Jinnan's estate is wealthy. The betrothal gifts prepared for you will definitely be the best in the capital. They will make you look more grand than anyone else. My brother and I have only each other. After you marry into the family, there will be no mother-in-law above you, nor will you need to manage the household. I can guarantee that the kind of life you lived before will still be just as free and easy. Qingge also looked at me and said with conviction, from now on, I will protect you. The siblings asked nothing, but they had already unhesitatingly taken my side. Feeling sorry for my situation, they were pained by what I had been through. I was somewhat flattered. Counting back, I'd had no prior dealings with these siblings. I hadn't even begun to nurse Qin Xian's health or cure her illness yet, but they were already showing me such kindness. I couldn't help but smile. Looking at Qingge, I asked, today is the 8th of the 10th month. How about we get married in 20 days? In my last life, Qingge died on the 28th of the 10th month. In this life, if he's preparing to marry me, he won't have to go to the southern border. With me around, it's even more impossible for him to die. Saving his life on our wedding night would be my reward for the kindness these siblings showed me. My eager attitude, however, made the siblings feel even more that I couldn't stay in the Wen family any longer. So, they both nodded in agreement with great decisiveness. The determination in their eyes to rescue me from that fiery pit was firmer than anything else. With this mindset, the wedding arrangements for Qingge and me progressed rapidly, but despite the haste, nothing I deserved was missing. Not only were the 3 letters and 6 rites complete, but Qinggu personally chose the dates. Qin Xian accompanied him to deliver the betrothal gifts. The two of them fully displayed how much they valued me. Soon, the wedding day arrived. I was married out from the Jiang family. Qinggu came on horseback to receive the bride. No one in the Jiang family was happy. They only hung 2 red lanterns at the gate. This was because Gu Jinyan remained unconscious even now. The doctor had seen him, and said he was possessed by nightmares, and was seriously ill. Jiang Qingyan went in and out of the Jiang house every day, personally caring for Gu Jinyan. Her brow furrowed with worry over his illness. Father and Mother Wen were also unhappy because of their darling daughter, so they didn't give me any friendly looks. But I didn't care anymore. I stepped into the bridal sedan chair and headed for the Marquis of Jinnan's estate, focusing on my marriage. To my surprise, when the sedan stopped and Qinggu helped me out, a sudden commotion broke out nearby. Among the commoners watching the spectacle, someone shouted, "Why is this person spitting blood? Quickly, call a doctor to save him." I was originally holding a fan to cover my face, but hearing this, I turned toward the sound to look. I immediately saw the pale and weak Gu Jinyan. After his long illness, he had become much more haggard. But why was he here again? Gu Jinyan also saw me. His eyes lit up. And ignoring the efforts of those around him to stop him, he rushed in front of me. "Yuning," he panted. "I remember it all. You should be my wife, the mistress of the Jiang family." My heart skipped a beat. Just as I was about to say something, Gu Jinyan saw the wedding dress I was wearing. His movements froze. A moment later, as if triggered by the sight, he questioned me right in front of Qinggu. "Are you really going to marry Qinggu? He will die tonight. Do you want to become a widow immediately?" Gu Jinyan knew Qinggu would die tonight. He had definitely been reborn as well. Was it because of those nightmares from a few days ago? I pondered silently. I felt Qin Ji's hand holding mine. It didn't even tremble once. The nervousness in my heart inexplicably dissipated. I looked up at Gu Jinyan and said, "I don't know what nonsense you're talking about. I have nothing to do with you. And it's impossible for my husband to die." I didn't see that. When I used the term husband, Qinggu turned his head to gaze at me. The corners of his mouth curved up. Looking very happy. Gu Jinyan saw this. And his gaze darkened. He gave Qinggu a cold glare. Qinggu raised an eyebrow and tightened his grip on my hand. I didn't notice the silent confrontation between the two men. Feeling my hand being squeezed, I turned to look at Qinggu, not sensing anything wrong with him. Then I looked back at Gu Jinyan. "Please move aside. You are delaying the auspicious hour." Gu Jinyan wouldn't move. He pursed his lips. A man who had never bowed his head in his life. This time his tone was unprecedentedly soft. He said to me, "Yuning, perhaps we can start over. This time, Qingyan won't be between us. And I won't let the Jiang family look down on you. You can live however you wish. Can we try, please?" I almost laughed hearing this. Is Gu Jinyan trying to compensate me? But in my last life, I had already told him that I didn't want him anymore, so I shook my head. No, I looked at Gu Jinyan. My gaze calm. And my tone distant. "Lord Gu, if you are here for a wedding drink, my husband and I welcome you. But if you are here to cause trouble, I can only ask you to leave." Gu Jinyan, the Jiang family is a century-old house. Don't you go tarnishing their reputation. It was laughable. In my last life, Gu Jinyan always used this logic to suppress me. Gu Jinyan's mother would say at every turn that I was tarnishing the Jiang family's reputation. The Jiang family was a century-old noble family. Before his death, Gu Jinyan's father had pupils all over the world and was revered by all scholars. After Gu Jinyan entered officialdom, he too was placed on a pedestal. Countless people flattered and respected him, while countless eyes also watched him. A country girl like me, how could I know the Jiang family's rules? My adherence to rules was taught to me through pain and tears. After being punished time and again, in this life, I could finally use Gu Jinyan's own words to shut him up. It was truly satisfying. Gu Jinyan's face grew even paler. He wanted to say he could ignore the rules. He could even discard the Jiang family's 100-year legacy. As long as he could win back the person in front of him, he would risk everything. In his last life, his realization came too late. He only knew his own heart after he lost her. He often missed the days when he and his wife were close, teaching and learning together. The later coldness and neglect were only because she became distant toward him, and he felt a blockage in his heart. But all these words seemed too late, just as he had realized his heart in his last life. But she was already gone. As Gu Jinyan remained silent for a long time, I grew impatient and spoke coldly. "Originally, I didn't want to deal with you. I thought keeping my distance was best, so everyone could be at peace. But if you insist on disturbing me and making this life difficult for me, then I can only retaliate. I advise you to stop clinging to me." After saying that, I looked at Qinggu, pulled his hand, and said, "Let's go. It's time for the ceremony." I didn't care about Gu Jinyan, or what expression he had behind me. Side by side with Qinggu, I entered the Marquis of Jinnan's estate. I didn't hear Gu Jinyan's low murmur behind me. "I never wanted to make things hard for you." Walking all the way through the estate's main hall, Gu Jinyan didn't follow. Before the hall, the master of ceremonies had been waiting for a long time. Seeing Qinggu and me stop, he immediately called out, "First kowtow to heaven and earth. Second kowtow to the parents." Husband and wife kowtow to each other. After the 3 kowtows, the marriage was complete. By performing the ceremony, I became Qin Ji's wife, a member of the Marquis of Jinnan's estate. From now on, I have no relation to the Jiang family or Gu Jinyan. As I turned to be escorted to the bridal chamber, I caught another glimpse of Gu Jinyan. In that brief glance, I seemed to see a glint at the corner of his eyes. He was actually crying. In my last life, I never received a single kind look from him until I died. In this life, his deep affection only seemed laughable to me. At that moment, there was a ding-dong in my mind. After a long absence, the system had reconnected. Congratulations, host. The karma between you and Gu Jinyan has been completely severed. The system's voice was full of joy. I also curled my lips into a smile. System, you finally contacted me. Are you taking me away now? The system asked back. Does the host want to leave? Actually, by marrying Qin Gu, you can experience the warmth and pampering you've always wanted. If the host feels you can find happiness here, then live out this life before leaving. Qin Ji's love for you is very deep. If the host leaves now, he will be heartbroken. I couldn't help but chuckle. Is that so? The system said the same about Gu Jinyan's love last time. I turned to look at Qin Gu, meeting the joy that was almost overflowing from his eyes. I couldn't help but hesitate a little. I thought for a moment, and pulled Qin Ji's hand. At the banquet later, don't drink anything, and don't eat anything. Wait for me to bring you food. In the last life, Qin Ji's poisoning was instantaneous. The court investigated thoroughly, and traced it to a certain prince, confirming the prince's crime of rebellion. The court was shaken. I couldn't control the court, or the prince who did the poisoning. I could only tell Qin Gu not to eat anything. Qin Gu seemed to be dazed for a second, but he still asked nothing. He nodded slightly. His trust in me was simply astonishing. Were the words of that high priest really so effective? To make Qin Gu have no suspicion at all toward a stranger like me? Regarding my confusion, Qin Xian, who came to the bridal chamber to chat with me, gave a mysterious smile. Qin Gu said you didn't remember. It turns out it's true. You saved his life 3 years ago. Qin Xian's words were startling. 3 years ago? I searched hard through my memories of 2 lives. After a long time, I finally faintly recalled. I was staying in Jiangnan at the time. I went up the mountain to pick herbs to sell for money, and I did pick up a dying man. After casually bandaging him, I went to report to the local authorities, asking the bailiffs to save him. But the bailiffs said later that there was no injured person on that mountain at all. They even fined me money for making a false report, so I thought I had been dreaming. So it was him. I murmured under my breath. The bailiffs fined me a whole tael of silver back then. I was so angry I didn't eat for a day. Qin Xian saw my face darken and sensed a bad premonition. She quickly changed the subject. Yuning, are you hungry? Let's eat first. The Marquis of Jinnan's estate was indeed very free. In my last life, when I married into the Jiang family, I sat there like a wooden post on my wedding day, unable to move. Gu Jinyan didn't come, so I sat there dryly for a day and a night. But marrying Qin Gu, not only did I have someone to chat with, but Qin Xian also personally cooked for me. I tested the dishes, confirming there was no poison. Then I asked the maid for a small tray, and set some aside. Qin Xian smiled at the sight. Are you saving that for Qin Gu? I made his portion too. Saying that, she helped me fill a few small bowls and put them into a food box. She winked at me. Qin Gu is resting in the inner hall right now. Sneak over and give it to him, then come back, and catch a glimpse of your own wedding festivities while you're at it. Qin Xian egged me on, and I couldn't resist the temptation. Obediently, I went. Just as I reached the entrance of the inner hall, I heard Qin Gu and Gu Jinyan talking. Qin Ji's tone was cold but firm. Yuning is my wife. Naturally, I will be the one to protect her. Gu Jinyan seemed to choke for a moment. It's only because I was one step too late that you were able to get ahead of me. But you are destined to die. When you die, Yuning will be all alone. That is none of your concern. The conversation ended as the door opened. I met Qin Ji's gaze. I smiled at him. Husband, are you hungry? I brought you food. I pulled Qin Gu to leave, but I was called back by Gu Jinyan. Yuning, do you really feel happy marrying Qin Gu, even if you're to become a widow? I didn't look back, but I answered his question. Yes, I'm happy. After answering, I walked away side by side with Qin Gu. Before rounding the long corridor, I caught a glimpse of Gu Jinyan still standing there. He was full of dejection. After the wedding, my life settled into tranquility. Gu Jinyan seemed to have given up, never coming to disturb me again. Qin Gu, in the bliss of a new marriage, guarded the house and didn't go out. Naturally, he didn't volunteer for the southern border, and naturally, no one poisoned him. Qin Gu and I had a discussion about that one tael of silver I had lost back then. Qin Gu couldn't compensate me from those years, so he could only let me have my way. He signed a pledge. If I say go east in the future, he will never go west. I prepared a small box specially to keep these pieces of evidence. When Qin Gu saw it, he tossed a key inside. It was the key to the warehouse. If you want to manage the house, manage it. If you want to spend money, spend it. If it all feels boring, you can even count the silver to pass the time. I was stunned for a moment. In my last life, though both families were wealthy, they never gave anything to me. This was the first time I had received the keys to a warehouse. I had seen the account books of the Marquis estate. They were a thick stack. The books detailing the inventory filled a whole room. I couldn't help but joke. The warehouse of the Marquis of Jinnan is so rich. If it's just for pure spending, I probably won't use it all in this lifetime. Chinga also smiled. His gaze fixed on me, gentle and showing his affection. I couldn't help but feel a little awkward, even though we were newlyweds, and had done everything a husband and wife should do. Why did Chinga seem to be getting more and more clingy? Just as I was about to say something to ease the awkwardness, Chinga spoke first. I heard Gu Jinyan has developed a soul loss condition. I paused abruptly. Only then did I learn that on our wedding day, Gu Jinyan had stood outside the Marquis gate all night. By the time the Jiang family found him and brought him back, his mind was already unclear. The former pride of the heavens had become a fool. My face was full of disbelief. I repeated the question, he's gone stupid? That's impossible, right? In his last life, Gu Jinyan was a vice minister with a limitless future, only waiting for the old minister to retire before being promoted. With his mental fortitude, could he really crumble over a small setback like my wedding? It wasn't until 3 days later, when I received a letter from the high priest of Fahua Temple, that I finally knew the reason. The priest told me in the letter, this monk has calculated Gu Jinyan's fate. In his last life, the benefactor created much bloodlust, slaughtering at temples and neglecting state affairs, harming the country and the people's livelihood. He came to no good end. In this life, his memories were awakened, but his obsession was shattered, and his soul could no longer support him. 2 of his 3 souls have scattered, and he can no longer recover. Pitiable and lamentable. But you, benefactor, have saved a virtuous person of merit. This life will surely end well for you. Buddha's mercy. Amitabha. This letter from the old monk was an open admission that he knew about my rebirth. I was a bit panicked at first, but then I calmed down. If you don't do bad things, you don't fear heaven's wrath. The old monk even said I would have a good end in this life. What did I have to be afraid of? Once I understood, I finally poked the system. Wait until I've lived out this life, then we'll go to the next world. I'm living very well now, and I really want to live out this life properly. The system immediately responded, okay. The host has the final say. After reaching an agreement with the system, my mood was joyful. And I cast Gu Jinyan to the back of my mind, just when I thought life would continue peacefully. The Jiang family ran into trouble. In this life, Gu Jinyan early on became a fool after the divorce. Father Wen didn't follow Gu Jinyan to bet on the right prince for the throne. He stood on the losing side, was implicated, and his whole family was exiled. Father Wen realized something was wrong in advance and married Jiang Qingyan to Gu Jinyan. But Gu Jinyan was no longer the pride of the heavens. Jiang Qingyan, who once said she loved him deeply, was now completely unwilling. Gu Jinyan's mother was also dissatisfied with Jiang Qingyan, believing that after she got engaged to Gu Jinyan, he had frequently met with misfortune. She thought Jiang Qingyan was a bringer of bad luck, who had cursed the Jiang family's luck. Jiang Qingyan was tormented in every way, and almost went mad. In the end, she came to me piteously to beg. At that time, I was having a painting competition with Qinggu. One was a warrior, the other a country girl. Our levels were about the same, and our paintings were equally ugly. But it didn't matter. I liked to paint, so Qinggu had to accompany me. When Jiang Qingyan came to the door, I had no time to see her. I had someone send her away. The faint sound of crying came from outside the gate. I lifted my brush and nudged Qinggu beside me with my elbow. Do you think I'm heartless for not helping Jiang Qingyan? Qinggu shook his head without hesitation. No, he wouldn't give big moral lectures, but that one categorical word was enough. I laughed and said, well said. The first painting I finished is yours. As I spoke, my brush slipped. The first painting gained a distorted thick line. Qingji's eyes were full of helplessness, but he could only accept it. I continued to paint. A moment later, Qinggu asked the same question for the umpteenth time. Yuning, do you like me? Are you happy by my side? I nodded. I like you. I'm happy. I didn't hesitate about this either. Qinggu then tentatively asked about that divorce agreement. I looked at him and, as always, shook my head. I wouldn't tear it up. It was my greatest security. Qinggu sighed. He finally compromised, making a vow. Fine, I promise you won't need it for the rest of your life. His promise held true for a lifetime.